My name is Isabella. I am 34 years old, and I live alone in a quiet apartment in a city 3 hours away from where I grew up. The dining room was warm, smelling of roast chicken and expensive wine, but the moment felt ice cold. My mother looked straight across the table at me. She didn't blink. She just held out her open hand and said, "Isabella, give me your credit card. Your sister needs $200,000. I looked at my sister. She was picking at her napkin, looking bored, waiting for me to fix her problems like I always did. I looked back at my mother. I took a deep breath. "No," I said. The silence lasted exactly 1 second. Then my mother's hand moved. She slapped me so hard that the heavy silver forks on the table rattled against the china plates. My face burned instantly. My ear rang. But the worst part wasn't the physical pain. It was looking at my sister. She wasn't shocked. She wasn't sorry. She was smirking. I stood up. I didn't scream. I didn't fight back. I just walked out the front door into the night. That was 10 years ago. I haven't spoken to them since. But tonight, at 2:00 a.m., my phone lit up. 35 missed calls from Mom. They want something again. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Isabella. I am 34 years old. My phone was vibrating against the nightstand. It was a harsh, angry sound in the quiet of my bedroom. I rolled over and squinted at the clock. It was 2:14 in the morning. I live alone now. I have a small, clean apartment in a city 3 hours away from where I grew up. My walls are painted a soft cream color. My sheets are crisp and white. Everything in my life is organized. Everything is quiet. I like the quiet. It took me a long time to get used to silence that wasn't filled with tension. The phone buzzed again, and again. It was relentless. I reached out and picked it up. The screen was bright in the dark room. I saw the name and my stomach dropped like I was on a roller coaster. Mom. I stared at the name. I hadn't seen it on my screen in 10 years. Below her name there was a notification. 35 missed calls. 35. My heart started hammering against my ribs. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the phone. Panic is a funny thing. Even after a decade of freedom, even after 10 years of building my own life, seeing that name made me feel like a scared little girl again. I felt small. I felt guilty. I sat up in bed and turned on the lamp. The light was yellow and warm, but I felt cold. I wrapped my arms around myself. Why was she calling? Why now? Why 35 times in the middle of the night? In a normal family, 35 calls at 2 a.m. means an emergency. It means a car crash. It means a heart attack. It means someone is dying. But I don't come from a normal family. In my family, an emergency isn't always real. Sometimes an emergency is just a weapon. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I put the phone face down on the mattress. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my breathing. In, out, in, out. Just like my therapist taught me years ago. I looked around my room. I looked at the books stacked neatly on my dresser. I looked at the painting of the ocean I bought last year with my own money. I looked at the heavy curtains that kept the world out. This was my space. They weren't allowed here, but the phone kept buzzing. It was like a drill pressing into my brain. I thought about blocking the number. I should have done it years ago. But a small part of me, the part that was still trained to be obedient, hesitated. What if someone really was dead? What if it was my father? My father was the only one I ever missed. He was weak, yes, he never stood up for me. But he wasn't cruel like them. He was just defeated. I picked up the phone again and stared at the screen. The buzzing stopped. For a second there was silence. Then a text message popped up. "Isabella, pick up, it's an emergency. It's your sister, my sister, Elena." Of course it was about Elena. It was always about Elena. I put the phone down again. I didn't reply. I got out of bed and walked to the kitchen. My bare feet were cold on the hardwood floor. I poured myself a glass of water and stood by the window, looking out at the empty street below. 10 years ago, I walked out of a dining room and never looked back. I changed my number. I moved cities. I got a new job. I didn't tell them where I went. For the first year, I was terrified they would find me. Every time I saw a silver sedan like my mother's, my heart would stop. Every time the phone rang with an unknown number, I wouldn't answer. But they didn't chase me. That was the thing that hurt the most in the beginning. They didn't try to find me to apologize. They didn't call to ask if I was safe. They just let me go. I was useful to them. I was the bank. I was the fixer. I was the one who cleaned up the messes. When I stopped being useful, they didn't want me anymore. It took me a long time to understand the difference between being loved and being useful. When you are loved, people care about your feelings. They care if you are hurt. They want you around because they enjoy your company. When you are useful, people care about what you can give them. They care if your wallet is open. They want you around because you make their lives easier. For 25 years, I thought I was loved. I thought if I just gave enough, if I just worked hard enough, if I just sacrificed enough, they would finally look at me the way they looked at Alina. I was wrong. I took a sip of water. It was cool and clean. The phone in the bedroom started buzzing again. Call number 36. I didn't move toward it. I stayed by the window. I thought about the last time I spoke to my sister. She was 22 then. She was wearing a silk dress that I had paid for. She was sitting at the table, checking her reflection in a spoon, while my mother demanded $200,000 from me. Alina hadn't said a word. She just smirked. That smirk haunted me for years. It was a look of pure entitlement. It said, I deserve everything and you deserve nothing. I wondered what she looked like now. She would be 32. Was she still beautiful? Was she still spoiled? Was she still ruining her life and expecting someone else to fix it? The text message said, it's your sister. It didn't say, Isabella, we miss you. It didn't say, Isabella, are you okay? It was a demand. It was a hook trying to snag me and pull me back into the dark water. But cruelty doesn't appear overnight. It grows slowly. It starts with small things. It starts with a comment here, a favor there. It starts with lines being crossed, inch by inch, until you don't even realize you're standing in enemy territory. Standing there in my quiet kitchen, I let my mind drift back. Before the slap, before the money. Back to when I was just a daughter trying to be good. Back to the slow, quiet descent into becoming a victim in my own home. I needed to remember. I needed to remember why I left, so I wouldn't be tempted to answer that phone. My sister, Alina, was 2 years younger than me. From the day she was born, she was the princess. She was delicate, she was pretty. She had big blue eyes that filled with tears whenever she didn't get her way. I was different, I was sturdy, I was quiet. I had brown eyes and plain hair. I was the one who did the homework. I was the one who cleaned my room without being asked. Mom used to tell me, Isabella, you are the strong one. Alina needs help, you don't. I took that as a compliment. I thought it meant I was special. I didn't realize it was a trap. Being the strong one just meant I was the one who had to carry the load. It started with small things when we were kids. Isabella, let Alina have the last cookie. You don't need it. Isabella, do Alina's chores, she has a headache. Isabella, give Alina your allowance, she wants that doll and we're a little short this week. I always said yes. I wanted to be good. I wanted Mom to smile at me. I wanted Dad to pat my head and say, good job, Izzy. But as we got older, the stakes got higher. The favors stopped being about cookies and dolls. They started being about life. When I was 16, I got a job at a grocery store. I worked evenings and weekends. I saved every penny. I wanted to buy a car. I had my eye on a used Honda. It wasn't fancy, but it was freedom. 2 weeks before I had enough money, Alina crashed her scooter. She wasn't hurt, but the scooter was totaled, and she had damaged a neighbor's fence. Mom came into my room that night. She sat on my bed. She looked tired. Isabella, she said softly, we have a problem. She told me about the fence. She told me about the scooter. She told me they didn't have the cash to fix it right now. We need to use your car fund, she said. It wasn't a question. But Mom, I said, my voice trembling, I've been working for a year, that's my money. Mom's face hardened. Isabella, family sacrifices, your sister is in trouble. Do you want the neighbors to sue us? Do you want us to be embarrassed? Don't be selfish. Selfish. That was the word she always used. If I wanted to keep something for myself, I was selfish. If I wanted to protect what was mine, I was selfish. I gave her the money. I cried myself to sleep, but I gave her the money. Alina got a new scooter a month later. Dad bought it for her. I never got my car. I took the bus until I was 22. It got worse in college. I went to a state school on a scholarship. I worked 2 jobs, waitressing and tutoring, to pay for my books and rent. I never asked my parents for a dime. Alina went to a private art college. It was incredibly expensive. My parents paid for everything. Tuition, a luxury apartment, a new car, clothes, parties. I remember coming home for Thanksgiving during my junior year. I was exhausted. I had been working double shifts. I was wearing boots with a hole in the sole because I couldn't afford new ones. Alina was showing off a new designer handbag. Isn't it cute? She squealed. Mom got it for me for getting a B in painting class. I looked at Mom. I made the dean's list, I said quietly. I have a 4 GPA. Mom didn't even look up from chopping vegetables. That's nice, Isabella. You've always been book smart. Elena is creative. It's harder for her. We have to encourage her. I went to the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror. I looked tired. My skin was pale. I looked 5 years older than I was. Why couldn't they see me? Why was my hard work invisible? But the real extraction started when I graduated and got a good job. I became a junior accountant at a big firm. I was making decent money for the first time in my life. I thought, finally, now I can build my life. But Mom saw my salary as a family resource. It started with a phone call. Isabella, the roof is leaking. Dad is stressed. Can you send $500? I sent it. Then, Isabella, Elena needs a dress for her friend's wedding. She can't go looking like a pauper. Send $300. I sent it. Then, Isabella, we're behind on the mortgage just this once. $2,000. I sent it. Every time I sent money, I felt a little sick. But I also felt a little hope. Maybe now they will appreciate me, I thought. Maybe now I'm important. I was buying their love. But the price kept going up and the product was never delivered. My sister never said thank you. Not once. She would take the money, buy the dress or the trip or the gadget, and post pictures online. She looked happy. She looked carefree. I was the one staying late at the office. I was the one eating instant noodles so I could afford to send them checks. I was the one with the stomach ulcer from stress. One Sunday, about a year before I left, I went over for lunch. I had just paid off a huge credit card bill for Elena. She had maxed it out on a vacation to Mexico that she needed because she was depressed. I walked into the kitchen. Mom and Elena were laughing. They stopped when I came in. Oh, hi Isabella, Elena said. She sounded bored. Hi, I said. I sat down. I paid the card, Elena, but you have to promise not to use it again. That was all my savings. Elena rolled her eyes. She actually rolled her eyes. God, Isabella, you're so dramatic. It's just money. You make plenty. Why are you so stingy? I looked at Mom, waiting for her to defend me. Waiting for her to say, Elena, your sister worked hard for that money. Say thank you. Mom just sighed. Don't start a fight, Isabella. We're having a nice day. Don't bring your stress in here. My stress was caused by them. That was the moment I felt the crack in my foundation. It wasn't a loud noise. It was a quiet snap inside my chest. I realized then, it was never help, it was extraction. They were mining me like I was a piece of land. They would keep digging until I was empty, and then they would leave me with the hole. But I stayed. I stayed for another year. Habit is a powerful chain. Guilt is a heavy anchor. I didn't know how to leave. I didn't know who I was if I wasn't Isabella, the strong one, Isabella, the provider. I didn't know that the final blow was coming. I didn't know that a simple dinner would end my life as I knew it. The night of the dinner, the air felt heavy. It was a Tuesday. I had worked 10 hours that day. Mom had called and said, "Come for dinner, it's important." I drove over, tired and anxious. Important usually meant expensive. When I walked in, the table was set perfectly. The good china, the crystal glasses, roast chicken, potatoes, it looked like a celebration. Dad was sitting at the end of the table. He looked down at his plate. He didn't say hello. That should have been my first warning. Elena was there, drinking red wine. She looked great. Her hair was done, her nails were perfect. She looked like she hadn't worked a day in her life, which was true. Mom was bustling around, too cheerful. Sit, sit. Eat. We ate in awkward silence. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall. Tick, tick, tick. Finally, Mom put down her fork. She wiped her mouth with a napkin. Isabella, she said. Her voice was steady, businesslike. We have an opportunity. A huge opportunity for Elena. I put my fork down. What kind of opportunity? A business, Elena piped up. A boutique, my own fashion line. I have a vision, Isabella. It's going to be huge. That sounds nice, I said cautiously. Do you have a business plan? Elena scoffed. Details. Mom handles the details. Mom leaned forward, her eyes locked onto mine. She needs startup capital. Real capital to get the prime location and the inventory. How much? I asked. I was expecting maybe 5,000, maybe 10. $200,000, Mom said. The number hung in the air. 200,000, I laughed. It was a nervous, shocked laugh. Mom, I don't have $200,000. I'm an accountant, not a millionaire. You have excellent credit, Mom said. We checked. You can take out a business loan or a line of credit. You can co-sign with us, but put it in your name because your credit score is perfect. We checked. The words echoed in my head. They had checked my credit without asking me. No, I said. Mom blinked. What? No, I said again. My voice was stronger this time. I can't do that. That's a mortgage. That's a life debt. If the business fails and Alina has never run a business, I'm on the hook. I'll be ruined. It won't fail, Alina shouted. You never believe in me. It's not about believing in you, I said. It's about math. It's too risky. I won't do it. Mom stood up. Her face went red. Isabella, this is your sister. This is her dream. You are going to ruin her dream because you are scared of a little risk. You are selfish. There was that word again. Selfish. I'm not doing it, Mom. I'm done. I'm done paying for everything. I'm done being the bank. Give me your credit card, Mom demanded. We need to put a deposit down tonight to hold the location. Give it to me. No, that was when it happened. The slap. It was fast, hard. The sound was like a gunshot in the room. My head snapped to the side. The room went silent. I touched my cheek. It was hot. I looked at Dad. He was staring at his peas. He didn't move. He didn't speak. I looked at Alina. She was smirking. She looked triumphant, as if seeing me hurt was better than getting the money. And Mom looked angry, not sorry, angry that I had defied her. You ungrateful girl, she hissed. Something broke in me. But it wasn't a breakdown. It was a breakout. I stood up slowly. I picked up my purse. I'm leaving, I said. My voice was very quiet. If you walk out that door, Mom yelled, don't you come back. You are turning your back on this family. No, Mom, I said. You turned your back on me a long time ago. I walked out. I got in my car. I drove. I didn't go home. I drove to a cheap motel off the highway. I didn't want them to come to my apartment. I needed to hide. I sat on the lumpy bed in that motel room and stared at the wall. My face throbbed. I felt hollow. I felt like an astronaut who had been cut loose from the ship, floating into dark space. But I also felt light. I didn't have to solve their problem. I didn't have to find $200,000. I didn't have to listen to the guilt. The next few weeks were a blur. I went to work. I came home. I locked the door. I expected calls. Screaming voicemails. But there was nothing. Silence. It hurt. It confirmed everything. I was only valuable when I was giving. When I said no, I ceased to exist for them. About a month later, I was in a grocery store. I turned the aisle and bumped into my cousin, Sarah. Sarah was close with Alina. She looked surprised to see me. She looked awkward. Oh, hi, Isabella, she said. She shifted her basket. We haven't seen you in a while. I've been busy, I said. Yeah, Sarah said. She looked around, then leaned in. Look, I know things are tense, but it's cool of you to help Alina anyway. She's been bragging about it. My blood ran cold. What? The boutique, Sarah said. She said you guys had a fight, but you came through. She said you're backing her. She's signing the lease next week. I dropped my basket. A jar of pasta sauce shattered on the floor. Red sauce splattered everywhere, looking like blood. I didn't back her, I whispered. Oh, Sarah looked confused. But she said the funding is secured. Under your name. I left the mess on the floor. I ran to my car. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely put the key in the ignition. I drove straight to the bank. I sat in the parking lot and pulled up my accounts on my phone. My checking account looked normal. My savings account looked normal. I called the credit bureau. I navigated the automated menus, my heart pounding in my throat. Verify recent inquiries. There it was. 3 inquiries in the last week. 2 business loans, 1 massive line of credit, all approved. They hadn't just asked for the money. When I said no, they took it. They used my social security number. They used my old address. They used my name, my mother, my sister. They were criminals, and I was the victim. I felt like throwing up. I opened the car door and dry heaved onto the pavement. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was a felony. I needed to be sure. I needed proof before I did what I knew I had to do. I couldn't call Mom. She would lie. I couldn't call Alina. She would laugh. I called Dad. He answered on the second ring. Hello? His voice sounded small. Dad, I said, meet me, please. Don't tell them, just meet me. He hesitated. Isabella, your mother is very upset. Dad, please. He met me at a diner halfway between our houses. He looked 10 years older than the last time I saw him. His shoulders were slumped. He wore a stained polo shirt. I didn't order food. I just ordered black coffee. Dad, I said. I kept my voice low. Sarah told me Alina is opening the boutique. She said the funding is in my name. Dad looked down at his coffee cup. He wouldn't meet my eyes. His hands were trembling. Dad, I said sharper, look at me. He looked up. His eyes were watery. Did they use my name? I asked. He nodded, a tiny, pathetic nod. How? I asked. They need signatures, they need ID. Your mother, Dad swallowed hard. Your mother has your old birth certificate. And she practiced your signature from your old birthday cards. I stared at him. My mother sat at the kitchen table, practicing my signature so she could steal from me. And you knew? I asked. I told her not to, he whispered. I said it was wrong. I said you would be angry. Angry? I laughed. It was a sharp, jagged sound. Dad, this isn't about being angry. This is fraud. This is prison time. Dad flinched. No, Isabella, don't say that. It's family. We just need a little time. The business will make money and we will pay the loans off before you even notice. Mom has a plan. Mom has a plan to ruin me, I said, and you watched her do it. I couldn't stop her, he said. You know how she is. She does what she wants for Alina. And what about me? I asked. My voice broke. What about me, Dad? Am I not your daughter too? Why didn't you protect me? He looked at me with sad, cow eyes. You're strong, Isabella. You can handle things. Alina, she can't. She needs us. There it was, the final truth, the final nail in the coffin of my childhood. Because I was strong, I didn't deserve protection. Because I was capable, I was allowed to be sacrificed. My strength was my punishment. I stood up. I looked down at my father. I didn't hate him. I just felt a profound, deep pity. He was a weak man. He had let his wife turn him into a ghost. I am strong, Dad, I said. You're right about that, and I'm going to handle this, but you're not going to like how I do it. Isabella, he asked, fear in his eyes. What are you going to do? I'm going to protect myself, I said, since nobody else will. I put a $10 bill on the table for the coffee I didn't drink. Goodbye, Dad. I walked out of the diner. The sun was shining, but the world looked different. The colors were sharper, the edges were harder. I felt a cold clarity settle over me. The sadness was gone. The guilt was gone. They had crossed the line. They had stolen my identity. They had betrayed me in the deepest way possible. I wasn't a daughter anymore. I wasn't a sister. I was a victim of a crime, and I was going to solve it. I took out my phone. I didn't call the bank yet. I searched for a lawyer. Not a family lawyer, a fraud lawyer. I found a name. Mitchell and Associates, specializing in financial fraud and identity theft. I pressed the call button. Mitchell and Associates, how can I help you? A crisp voice answered. My name is Isabella, I said. My voice was steady. I need to report a major theft, and the perpetrators are my family. That was 10 years ago. Now, sitting in my kitchen at 2 a.m., looking at the phone with 35 missed calls, I knew exactly why they were calling. The past doesn't stay buried, especially when you buried it with legal papers and court orders. They were in trouble again, and they remembered the one person who used to fix everything. But that person didn't exist anymore. She died in a diner when her father told her that her strength was the reason she was betrayed. The phone buzzed again. Call number 37. I walked over and picked it up. I didn't swipe to answer. I swiped to unlock. I had a plan. I had always had a plan. 10 years ago, after I walked out of that diner leaving my father sitting in his shame, I didn't go back to my apartment to cry. I didn't call my friends to vent. I went straight to the office of Mr. Mitchell, the fraud attorney. His office was different from my family's home. It was cool, quiet, and smelled of paper and old wood. There was no screaming here, no guilt trips, just facts. Mr. Mitchell was a man in his 60s with wire-rimmed glasses and a voice that sounded like gravel. He listened to my story without interrupting. He didn't look shocked. He didn't look pitying. He just took notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished telling him about the forged signatures, the loans, and the boutique funded by my stolen identity, I stopped. I waited for him to tell me I was cruel for turning on my family. Instead, he took off his glasses and cleaned them with a handkerchief. Isabella, he said calmly, you have two choices. Choice A, you accept this debt. You pay off the $200,000 plus interest. It will take you 20 years. You will likely never own a home. Your credit will be ruined. And this is the important part, they will do it again, because fraud is habit-forming. He paused and put his glasses back on. Choice B. You file an affidavit of identity theft. You report the loans as fraudulent. The banks will launch an investigation. They will pursue the people who took the money. You will be cleared. But your family will face criminal charges. I looked at my hands, they were steady. Choice B, I said. Are you sure? He asked. This isn't something you can undo. Once the wheels turn, they turn. I'm sure. The next few weeks were a blur of paperwork. I didn't act out of rage. I acted like a surgeon removing a tumor. It had to be precise. If I let my emotions in, I might hesitate. I might answer the phone when Mom called, so I became a robot. I closed every bank account I had ever shared with them. I opened new ones at a different bank in a different county. I put a lock on my credit report so tight that even I had trouble opening a new card. Then Mr. Mitchell and I started building the file. We pulled the loan applications. I saw my name signed in handwriting that looked almost like mine, but slightly looped at the end, Mom's style. I saw the fake employment letters my sister had typed up. I saw the false addresses. It was a mountain of lies. Mr. Mitchell sent the initial letters to the banks. My client did not authorize these transactions. The banks froze the funds immediately. The boutique lease was canceled before Alina could even buy a mannequin. The money dried up instantly. I waited for the explosion. It happened 3 days later. My phone blew up. Hundreds of calls. Texts that ranged from begging to threatening. How could you do this? They froze the account. Alina is crying. Police are asking questions. I didn't read them all. Mr. Mitchell advised me to change my number, so I did. I got a new SIM card. I disconnected the old landline. I disappeared. I moved to a new city. I got a new job. I didn't tell anyone from my old life where I was. I needed a complete quarantine. For the first year, I was terrified. I looked over my shoulder constantly. I thought they would show up at my door. I thought they would find me. But they didn't. That's the thing about users, they are lazy. They want the easy path. Tracking me down required effort. It required money. They didn't have either, so they let me go. Over the last 10 years, I rebuilt my life. I paid off my student loans. I bought my apartment. I traveled to Italy. I made friends who liked me for me, not for what I could buy them. But I never fully relaxed. I kept that file. The Mitchell file. It was a thick black binder containing copies of every forged document, every police report number, every letter from the bank confirming the fraud. I kept it in a fireproof safe in my closet. I knew deep down that it wasn't over. People like my mother and sister don't change. They just wait. They find new victims. Or they wait for the old victim to let their guard down. I monitored my credit every month. I checked public records every year. I saw when Alina got married. I saw when she got divorced 6 months later. I saw when Mom took out a second mortgage on the house. I watched them from a distance, like a scientist watching bacteria in a petri dish. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just prepared. So tonight, when the phone rang 35 times, I wasn't panicked because I was confused. I was panicked because I knew the time had finally come. The silence was over. The check had come due. I stared at the phone in my hand. The screen had gone dark, but the notification light was still blinking. A steady blue pulse. Blink, blink, blink. I took a deep breath. I walked back into the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. I slid my thumb across the screen. I dialed the number. It rang once. Isabella, Mom's voice. It wasn't the strong, commanding voice I remembered. It was high, thin, and terrified. She sounded old. Hello, Mother, I said. My voice surprised me. It was calm, deep. It sounded like the voice of the woman I had become, not the girl I used to be. Oh, thank God. Thank God you answered, she babbled. We didn't know if you still had this number. Well, we didn't have it. Sarah found it. Isabella, you have to come home. I am home, I said. I live here. No, I mean, you have to come here. To the house tonight now. It's 2:30 in the morning, I said. I'm not going anywhere. You don't understand, she shrieked. The facade of politeness cracked instantly. The police were here, detectives. They took Alina's laptop. They froze her accounts again. They are talking about arrest warrants, Isabella, arrest warrants. I felt a cold chill, but it wasn't fear, it was validation. What did she do? I asked. Nothing, she did nothing, Mom cried. It's a misunderstanding, it's those banks. They are so aggressive. Alina was just trying to get back on her feet. She started a consulting business. She just needed some bridge loans. Whose name did she use? I asked. There was a silence on the other end. A heavy, guilty silence. Isabella, Mom whispered. You know how hard it is for her. Her credit is bad. Because of what happened 10 years ago, she couldn't get approved. She just used a cosigner. Who? Well, she might have put your name down, just as a reference. But somehow the paperwork got mixed up and they made you the guarantor. I closed my eyes. They hadn't learned a single thing. 10 years of silence. 10 years of consequences, and they did it again. She forged my signature again, I said flatly. No, she digitally signed it. It's different. It's not a crime, it's a computer error. But the police won't listen. They say it's identity theft. They say it's grand larceny because of the amount. How much? I asked. 50,000, Mom sobbed. Isabella, please, you have to tell them you authorized it. Just tell them you forgot. Tell them you said yes. If you tell them that the investigation goes away, it becomes a civil matter, we can pay it back later. You want me to lie to the police, I said. I want you to save your sister, she yelled. She can't go to jail, Isabella, she's delicate. She won't survive, she's your blood. My blood. I looked at the veins in my wrist. I thought about the blood that pumped through them. It was my blood. I fed it, I kept it healthy, I worked for it. Isabella, Mom's voice was desperate. Are you there? Please, just come meet us, tomorrow morning. We can talk, we can fix this. Just don't answer the police until we talk. I opened my eyes. I looked at the file safe in my closet. I realized then that I had been waiting for this moment. I had been waiting for the final severance. Okay, I said. Okay, Mom sounded hopeful. Okay, you'll help. I'll meet you, I said. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. at the cafe on Main Street, the one near your house. Yes, okay, we will be there. Oh, Isabella, thank you. I knew you were a good girl, I knew you wouldn't abandon us. 9 a.m., I repeated. I hung up. I didn't go back to sleep. I couldn't. I went to the closet and opened the safe. I pulled out the black binder. I sat at my desk and opened it. I flipped past the documents from 10 years ago. I turned to the back section. You see, Mom was wrong about one thing. She thought this was a surprise to me. She thought I didn't know. But credit monitoring services are very good these days. I had received an alert 3 weeks ago. New inquiry, small business loan. Applicant, Isabella. I hadn't ignored it. I hadn't called Mom. I had called Mr. Mitchell. He was retired now, but his son ran the firm. We had already filed the police report. We had already sent the affidavits to the lender. The police were at Mom's house tonight because I sent them there. But they didn't know that yet. I looked at the papers in the binder. The proof was absolute. Alina had used my social security number, my old address, and a fake email address to secure $50,000. She had spent it in 2 weeks. I traced the signature on the copy of the loan application. It was sloppy this time. She was desperate. I closed the binder. I went to the bathroom and showered. I washed my hair. I scrubbed my skin. I wanted to be clean. I put on a suit. Navy blue, sharp, professional. It was the kind of suit I wore to board meetings. It was armor. I drove the 3 hours to my hometown. The sun came up as I drove. The sky turned from black to gray to a brilliant, cold blue. I wasn't going there to save them. I was going there to witness the end. The cafe was familiar. It used to be a bakery where Dad would buy us donuts on Sundays. Now it was a trendy coffee shop with exposed brick walls and overpriced lattes. I walked in at exactly 9 a.m. They were already there. They sat at a table in the back corner, away from the windows. They looked like refugees from a disaster. Mom looked small. Her hair was gray and unkempt, pulled back in a messy bun. She was wearing a coat that looked too big for her. She was twisting a napkin in her hands, shredding it into tiny white flakes. Alina sat next to her. She looked worse. Her face was puffy from crying. She wore no makeup. She was wearing a hoodie with the hood pulled up. She looked like a teenager who had been caught shoplifting, not a 32-year-old woman. When they saw me, Mom's face lit up with a desperate, pathetic hope. Isabella, she hissed, waving me over. I walked to the table. I didn't smile, I didn't hug them. I sat down in the chair opposite them. I placed my black binder on the table. You look good, Mom said, her eyes scanning my expensive suit, my polished shoes. You look successful. I am, I said. Alina wouldn't look at me, she stared at the table. Isabella, Mom leaned in, whispering. Thank you for coming, we don't have much time. The detective gave us a card. He wants us to call him by noon, you just need to call him. Tell him you know about the loan. Tell him it was an authorized family arrangement. And then what? I asked. Then they drop the case, Mom said. Then we figure out how to pay it back. Dad can sell his truck. I have a little jewelry. We'll make payments. You don't have the money, I said. And Alina spent it all. I saw the records, clothes, a trip to Vegas, online gambling. Alina flinched. I was trying to win it back. I was trying to double it so I could pay you before you found out. That's not how it works, Alina, I said. That's how addiction works. She made a mistake, Mom interrupted. She's sorry. Aren't you, Alina? I'm sorry, Alina mumbled. It sounded like a rehearsed line in a bad play. See, Mom said. She's sorry. Now please, Isabella, make the call for family. I looked at them, really looked at them. For years I had been afraid of these women. I had been afraid of their judgment. I had been afraid of their anger. I had craved their love. But looking at them now, I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel love. I didn't even feel hate. I felt nothing. They were strangers, dangerous strangers who wanted to hurt me to save themselves. I can't make that call, I said. Why not? Mom demanded. Are you that heartless? Do you want your sister in prison? I can't make the call, I said slowly, because I am the one who called the police. The silence that followed was heavy. It sucked the air out of the corner of the room. Mom's mouth dropped open. Elena's head snapped up, her eyes wide with shock. What? Mom whispered. I opened the binder. I took out the police report I had filed 3 weeks ago. I slid it across the table. I got the alert 3 weeks ago, I said. I didn't wait. I didn't call you to ask for an explanation. I called my lawyer. We sent the evidence to the fraud division. I gave them the IP addresses. I gave them the signature comparisons. You, Mom's face turned purple. You did this? You sent the police to my house. No, I said. Elena sent the police to your house. Elena committed a felony. I just reported it. You traitor, Elena screamed. She slammed her hand on the table. People in the cafe turned to look. You bitch, you have so much money, you could have just paid it. Why do you have to ruin me? I didn't ruin you, I said calmly. You stole from me, twice. The first time I let you go. I walked away. I gave you 10 years to grow up, but you didn't. You came after me again. I'm your mother, Mom hissed. She reached across the table and grabbed my wrist. Her grip was tight, painful. You will call them right now and retract this, or so help me God, you are dead to me. I looked down at her hand on my wrist. It was an old hand, spotted with age. It used to have so much power over me. That hand had slapped me 10 years ago. That hand had guided me to write checks I couldn't afford. I pulled my arm back. Her hand fell away. I was dead to you the moment I stopped paying, I said. I stood up. I buttoned my jacket. The detective has everything he needs, I said. I'm not pressing charges for the money. The bank is pressing charges for the fraud. It's out of my hands. It's the state against Elena now. Isabella, please. Mom started to cry. Real, ugly tears. Please don't walk away. We can't handle this alone. You removed me from the family the night you slapped me, I said. My voice was rock steady. Tonight, I'm honoring your decision. I turned around. Isabella, Elena screamed after me. I walked toward the door. The bell above the door jingled as I pushed it open. I stepped out onto the sidewalk. The air was crisp and cold. I didn't look back. I drove back to my city that afternoon. I turned my phone off for the drive. I didn't want to hear the screaming. When I got home, I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel triumphant. Victory implies a battle where someone wins. This wasn't a win. It was a tragedy. But it was a necessary tragedy. Over the next few months, the consequences unfolded. I didn't have to do anything. I just received updates from the district attorney's office. Because the amount was over $50,000, it was a felony. And because Elena had a history of financial irregularities, which the investigation uncovered, they weren't lenient. They froze her assets. They seized her car. Mom tried to save her. Of course she did. She drained her own retirement savings to hire a defense attorney. She took out a second mortgage on the house I grew up in, to pay for bail. It wasn't enough. The evidence I had provided was bulletproof. The digital footprint was undeniable. Elena took a plea deal. She pled guilty to 1 count of identity theft and 1 count of bank fraud in exchange for a lighter sentence. She was sentenced to 2 years in prison, followed by 5 years of probation. She was also ordered to pay restitution. I didn't go to the sentencing. I read about it in the local paper online. Local woman sentenced in identity theft case. There was a picture of Elena leaving the courthouse. She looked older, harder. She wasn't smirking anymore. Mom lost the house. She couldn't afford the mortgage payments after spending everything on the lawyer. She had to move into a small apartment on the bad side of town. Dad moved in with his brother in another state. The family was dismantled. People might think this was my revenge. They might think I planned this to destroy them. But it wasn't revenge. It was gravity. If you jump off a cliff, gravity pulls you down. Gravity doesn't hate you. Gravity doesn't want to hurt you. It just acts according to the laws of nature. My family had been jumping off cliffs for years, expecting me to be the safety net at the bottom. I just moved the net. And when I moved the net, they hit the ground. That isn't malice. That is just what happens when you stop enabling destruction. I received one letter from Mom about 6 months after Elena went to prison. It was handwritten on cheap lined paper. Isabella, I hope you are happy. You destroyed us. Your sister is in a cage. I have lost my home. Your father is gone. You did this. You are a cold, heartless girl. I pray you never have children so they don't do to you what you did to me. Mom. I read the letter standing in my kitchen. It was sunny outside. My apartment was quiet. I didn't cry. I felt a pang of sadness, yes. Sadness for the mother I wished I had. Sadness for the family I never really had. But I realized something as I read her hateful words. She still didn't see me. She still didn't take responsibility. In her mind, Alina stealing my identity wasn't the crime. Me reporting it was the crime. She lived in a world of twisted logic. A world where love meant submission and abuse was just family dynamics. I wasn't part of that world anymore. I tore the letter in half, then in half again. I dropped the pieces into the recycling bin. I made myself a cup of tea. Earl Grey. I sat by the window and watched the people walking on the street below. I was alone, but I wasn't lonely. Loneliness is waiting for someone who will never come. Loneliness is sitting at a dinner table with people who don't care about you. I wasn't waiting anymore. The day Alina was released from prison, 2 years later, I didn't know. I had stopped checking the news. I had stopped monitoring them. I was busy. I had been promoted at work. I was dating a kind man named David. He was a teacher. He didn't care about money. He listened when I spoke. He asked me how my day was. It was strange at first to be with someone who didn't want anything from me. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. I kept waiting for him to ask for a loan. But he never did. He just wanted to be with me. One Sunday, David and I were walking in the park. The leaves were turning orange and gold. The air smelled of autumn. My phone rang. It was an unknown number. I stopped walking. David stopped and looked at me. Everything okay? I looked at the screen. I knew instinctively who it was. I answered. Hello, Isabella. It was Alina. Her voice was raspy, different. Hello, Alina, I said. I'm out, she said. I know. I have nothing, she said. Mom is living in a dump. I can't get a job with a felony record. I have nowhere to go. She paused. I could hear the expectation in the silence, the old hook trying to catch me. I am the victim. You are the fixer. Fix this. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. And I meant it. I was sorry that her life was hard, but I wasn't going to fix it. Is that it? She snapped. The anger was still there, bubbling under the surface. You're sorry. You have a condo. You have a career. You owe me, Isabella. You put me in there. No, Alina, I said. You put yourself in there. I'm your sister, she yelled. Doesn't that mean anything? I looked at David. He was watching a dog chase a frisbee. He was smiling. He was patient. He was kind. It means we share DNA, I said. But family is more than blood, Alina. Family is respect. Family is safety. You were never safe for me. So you're just going to hang up. You're going to let me starve. You won't starve, I said. You're smart, you're resourceful, you'll figure it out, but you'll do it without me. I hate you, she whispered. I know, I said, and I forgive you. What? She sounded confused. I forgive you, I said. Not for you, for me. I forgive you so I don't have to carry the anger anymore. I forgive you so I can put this phone down and never think about you again. Isabella, I ended the call. I didn't just hang up, I blocked the number. Then I opened my settings and changed my number again. It took 5 minutes. I put the phone in my pocket. David turned to me. Who was that? Wrong number, I said. He smiled. Ready to go get lunch? Yes, I said. I'm starving. We walked down the path, leaves crunching under our boots. I took a deep breath. The air was cold and clean. I thought about the dining room table 10 years ago, the slap, the smirks, the silence. I thought about the credit card bills, the guilt, the fear. It was all gone. I didn't destroy them. I just stopped saving them. And in doing so, I finally saved myself. I took David's hand. It was warm. I walked forward, into my own life.